Okay, now you're watching ultra-wide footage. Hey everybody, hope you guys are healthy and safe. So you're watching footage shot with the main camera of the OnePlus 10 Pro. Now I do have the OnePlus 10 Pro on a gimbal right now, so it's a little bit further away than even my full arm's length. Hence why I'm able to shoot the main camera and still get pretty wide framing. And stabilization is probably going to be a little bit better than even handheld, but still handheld footage still comes out pretty stable, as you can see from these footage here, which are all shot handheld. Now the sound you're hearing is also coming from the built-in mic of the OnePlus 10 Pro. There's one mic built into the camera module. Right now I'm in a really quiet street. It's like 3 a.m. right now, but even earlier when I was on a noisier street, the phone still did a good job of capturing my voice. Hey everybody, hope you guys are healthy and safe. So you're watching footage shot with the main camera of the OnePlus 10 Pro. But for the rest of the video, I will be using external audio with my mic right here to get better sound. So let's switch. And by the way, if you're interested in more content like this, please subscribe to my channel. It helps me a lot. So anyway, the main camera of the OnePlus 10 Pro is a 48 megapixel Sony sensor, f1.8 aperture with a relatively large image sensor size of 1/1.4. So this larger image sensor allows it to take in a lot of light. So right now, you know, this is a pretty brightly lit street, but this is still considered low light videography, and I think footage still comes out relatively noise free. Everything looks pretty sharp, and you should see some nice little bokeh around my head because of the larger image sensor, so you get shallower depth of field. Now the camera experience is made better by this very intuitive OnePlus camera app. I'm particularly a fan of the fact that you can zoom in and out seamlessly. On some Android phones there's a little bit of stutter whenever you switch from the main camera to the ultra wide camera. Not here. The camera app is very well designed. You can cycle through all the apps with one hand, and it's not too cluttered, so you just have the main modes that you would need to use in the main camera app, and if you want to use extra modes, you can jump into the more settings. And there are some fun extra modes this year, including a really good manual movie mode that allows you to adjust focus points. So that means you can pull off tricks like rack focus, and there's also a new expand mode that kind of simulates the effects of shooting with a classic Hasselblad camera. There's also a useful long exposure mode that allows you to capture long exposure photos handheld without the need of a tripod, and the results actually look pretty respectable. Now if you don't care about all these extra shooting modes and just want to point and shoot the main camera, the camera app here is really good too. Everything focuses fast, the shutter speed is very responsive. Now this neighborhood I'm in right now, it's called Po Heng Fong. It is one of the trendiest districts of Hong Kong. It's a little bit ironic that this has become so trendy because this neighborhood was not popular before in the 80s and 90s, because just down the street are a couple of stores that sells coffins. You know, Chinese people are generally very superstitious, so not many of them wanted to live in this neighborhood because there's a coffin shop down the street. However, Westerners or even people like me who's Chinese ethnicity but grew up overseas, we may not buy into Chinese superstitions as much, so we don't have a problem living here. And a lot of us have moved here and kind of gentrified the place, and it's become very hipster and trendy now. Like right here, we have a streetwear store. Right here is a little bar. And this is a shop that sells bicycles and coffee. So right here we have a French cheese and wine store, and right next to it is a pretty rundown local shop. Anyway, back to the phone. So the main camera of the OnePlus 10 Pro does a really good job with still photos too. I am a big fan of the color science. This is now year 2 of that partnership between OnePlus and Hasselblad. So they've done some tuning to the colors that make it pop a little bit while still kind of looking, you know, not too exaggerated. It's still realistic. I am a fan of the colors. And I also noticed that in nighttime photography, the OnePlus 10 Pro's main camera captures more light than the Galaxy S22 Ultra's photos. You'll see that the OnePlus 10 Pro shot is generally brighter all around the frame. However, being brighter doesn't necessarily mean better. A lot of times if you pixel peep, the S22 Ultra shot is a little bit more detailed. The OnePlus 10 Pro shots tend to lose a lot of texture, particularly on the ground. I mean, just look at these photo samples. I think for the most part, the OnePlus 10 Pro's main camera is really good and can go toe-to-toe with the S22 Ultra and the iPhone 13 Pro Max and often win. Now the OnePlus 10 Pro has a 50 megapixel ultra wide camera. Let me switch. Okay, so now I'm shooting with the ultra wide camera of the OnePlus 10 Pro. Now this street is a little bit dimly lit, so the video might be quite noisy right now. Let me step back out into a little bit better lighting, so you should see the field of view is a little bit wider than usual. However, this is not the widest. because the ultra-wide camera actually has a native field of view of 150 degrees. This is the same Samsung JN1 sensor with the super wide field of view that I recently tested in the iQOO9 Pro. However, OnePlus does not let you shoot videos at least at 150 degrees. It locks you down to this slightly tighter framing, which is for the better, because when you go up to 150 degrees, it has a lot of distortion. So the ultra-wide camera has an f2.2 aperture, but the image sensor size is relatively small. So some people were actually a little bit concerned that the ultra-wide camera would be a downgrade from the OnePlus 9 Pro. I'm happy to report that's not the case. Well, for the most part anyway. The photos are a little bit softer and there's a little bit of color inconsistency, but the ultra-wide camera still produces pretty respectable shots. Now, video, maybe there's not much you can do in terms of computational photography, so videos right now may not look the best because I'm in low light situations. However, in photos, there's enough processing in OnePlus's software to make a ultra-wide shot look pretty punchy. Let's grab a couple of ultra-wide shots of this little graffiti here. Okay, so this is the field of view you get from the main camera. Let's switch out to the ultra-wide. Compensate for the fact that the sensor is quite small. And then you see the shot looks pretty good. Colors are punchy, it's much brighter than the actual scene. However, if you pixel peep a little bit, you'll see that details are a little bit soft. Now I'm gonna take some ultra wide shots of the same scene with the iPhone 13 Pro Max and the Galaxy S22 Ultra. Now finally, the third camera of the OnePlus 10 Pro is an 8 megapixel telephoto zoom lens offering 3.3 times optical zoom. Now that means the OnePlus 10 Pro cannot zoom as well as the Galaxy S22 Ultra, which can grab 3 times telephoto and 10 times optical. However, 3.3 times is still better than what you get out of a Xiaomi 12 Pro or an Oppo Find X5 Pro, and you can digital zoom up to 30x. Although 30x is not good. I would say 10 times 10x is about the maximum that you can get before the shot starts looking very soft and very noisy. So the OnePlus 10 Pro is a typical 2022 Android flagship. So that means you have a glass metal slab sandwich design. You have a 6.7 inch display, 1440 by 3216. So this is an ultra sharp panel, OLED, LTPO 2.0. That means the resolution can jump between 1 Hz and 120 Hz. To my eyes, the display looks great. I've examined this display next to the Galaxy S22 Ultra's display, and I really cannot see a difference between the two. They both look awesome to my eyes. I know the Galaxy S22 Ultra gets a little bit brighter at 1700 nits max brightness, whereas the OnePlus 10 Pro maxes out at 1500 nits. However, that extra 200 nits of brightness really is not noticeable by the human eye. Now the phone, it's covered by Gorilla Glass Victus on the front and back. This is good because I actually dropped the phone pretty badly earlier tonight in ultra wide footage, and surprisingly the phone only suffered minimal damage. Only in the lower right corner, as you can see, has been scratched up. That's it. Otherwise the display and the back of the phone look pristine. So kudos to Gorilla Glass and OnePlus for making a phone that's pretty sturdy, could survive a pretty rough drop. Now inside, the phone runs on a Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 with 5000 mAh of battery. The battery can be charged at up to 80 watt speeds if you are buying the phone in Europe and in Asia. In the US, for some reason, I think due to US standards, the charging brick, it's only 65 watt. I'm actually testing the US model with a 65 watt brick, and I was still able to top up the phone from 0 to 100 in 32 minutes. Battery life has been pretty good too, thanks to that 5000 mAh cell and the LTPO2 panel. This phone can go just about all day for me. Now, if I have a heavy day out and about over the weekend, it's gonna barely squeak by a 12-13 hour day, but on a normal work day, I will finish a 12-13 hour day with like 20-25% left, so definitely enough battery life. Now this phone runs Android 12 with Oxygen OS on top. Oxygen OS is beginning to look more and more like Color OS, and the overall UI and aesthetics look very similar to the Color OS seen in Oppo Find X5 Pro. Now it's not a bad thing because I've long been a fan of Color OS, and to be honest, Oxygen OS has always been very similar to Color OS anyways. I love all the shortcut features of Oxygen OS, such as swiping down 3 fingers to grab a screenshot. You can also now press on the screen with 3 fingers to grab a freeform screenshot. And I also love all the off-screen gestures, such as the ability to control music playback without needing to wake up your screen. Animations are also super smooth and fluid. I think 120Hz, it's better optimized on Color OS and Oxygen OS more so than on One UI, for example. Just look at the way the notification panel just drops down. It just looks so fluid to my eyes. Now, the only software features that's exclusive to Oxygen OS that you can find in an Oppo phone is this OnePlus shelf that you activate now by swiping down from the upper right corner. This shelf has widgets, shows you your health data, and you can control Spotify. You can jot down, leave a quick note directly on the widget. Now, the OnePlus 10 Pro is in a little bit of a tricky spot. The announcement last year that OnePlus is now a sub-brand of Oppo. I mean, to be honest, everybody who follows smartphones closely already knew this, but at least before, OnePlus and Oppo will put in a lot of effort to separate the two. Like, they try to pretend they were separate brands. Now there's no hiding anymore. Everybody knows OnePlus is technically a sub-brand of Oppo, and the OnePlus 10 Pro, there's no getting around it. It's very, very similar to the Oppo Find X5 Pro, except the Oppo Find X5 Pro has a much better ultra-wide angle camera. So that puts the OnePlus 10 Pro in a little bit of an awkward spot, particularly in Asia, where the Oppo Find X5 Pro is indeed available. However, there's still appeal to the OnePlus 10 Pro, because even though the OnePlus 10 Pro in Asia, it's like the 4th or 5th Android flagship I've tested already, that's not the case in the US, where the OnePlus 10 Pro will sell. In the US, the OnePlus 10 Pro is just the second major flagship release of the year. So that means for people who really want a new phone, but they don't want Samsung or iPhone for some reason, the OnePlus 10 Pro, it's the next option for them. It's a good alternative. The OnePlus 10 Pro also has appeal in Europe, because the Galaxy S22 Ultra in Europe runs on the Exynos chip, and the Exynos chip is just not as good as the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1. So that means in a lot of markets in Europe right now, the OnePlus 10 Pro may be the only phone out right now with Snapdragon 8 Gen 1. And the final factor is price. The OnePlus 10 Pro starts at $899 US for the 8GB RAM, 128GB version. Now, $899 US is not exactly cheap, but it is cheaper than the Galaxy S22 Ultra, which costs $1,200. So if you want a new Android phone, but you don't want to pay over $1,000, the OnePlus 10 Pro makes a pretty good case. You have a really good and clean software, a beautiful looking design, a phone that can survive a drop for sure, and you have a beautiful panel that is as good as anything else out on the market. So anyway, that's about it for this review slash vlog of the OnePlus 10 Pro. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider subscribing to my channel, and follow me on Instagram at Ben's Gadget Reviews. I have a lot more stuff coming up. This month just is busy. I have a lot of stuff to review, so thanks for watching.